Give us three, besides Bitcoin and Ethereum, the three most promising blockchains for the coming 2 years.
Oh boy. And obviously, I mean, you've already touched on some of them, right? Like obviously Solana is going to be on my list there. And I do think I'm super excited for it. I mean, I think that it has, done something that very few other chains I think have even thought about trying to do, which is scale. I think that like most chains that I look at, I just like don't get the sense that scaling is like anywhere on their roadmap. At least not really. That is just sort of like mostly an afterthought for them. And I think Solana has taken it extremely seriously. And I think they're one of the only chains that has a real plausible path forward here to scaling to the level you would need to get to if you wanted industrial scale usage. So, okay, so that's certainly one that would be on the list. What else would be here? Well, I think Avalanche it's a real chain. It's a cool chain. The team knows their shit, and has been putting a ton of work into it. And I think they've prioritized maybe different things than I would naturally have done, but I'm not sure they're wrong. And that's not to say that I know best and they don't. Like they may be right in the end about what to prioritize. But I think that scaling has been less of what they've been looking at than I would naively have expected. But I do think that it is a real chain. I think it's a cool chain, and I think that there's a world in which it gets absolutely huge. So
that's two: Solana, Avalanche, and
yeah, and then three. So, well, I mean, one question is like how you feel about side chains, layer twos, things like that. I think that like wrappers are like in general probably going to just keep growing over time, right? Like as you have a divergence between the chains that have the scale to handle the activity that's being asked of them versus the chains that the value lives on, right? You sort of have no choice but to like dive deeper and deeper into wrapped assets. And so I think that I mean, there's lots of words that people use for this. Sometimes they call them layer twos, side chains, wrappers, whatever. But I think fundamentally, like, I expect that like Bitcoin is going to remain at the center of the crypto ecosystem, but the Bitcoin blockchain might not be the blockchain that Bitcoins usually move along.
What do you kind of tell people who are still crypto skeptics?
Oh, I mean, I think it's really important. I think that's a big part of the world, and yeah, you could sort of ignore it, but that, I mean, do so at your own peril, really, right? Like that, I'm not going to come here and give you confidence that anything I say is going to be right or the right way to think about this. I think if I did, I'd be bullshitting you, right? Like if I come here and I tell you, like, this is how it is in crypto, I don't know, stop listening to me, right? Like, because no one knows for sure what's going to happen.
Before we continue, help us clicking that YouTube like button and subscribe now to our channel. This shows the algorithm that you valued this information. And it helps us spread that message. Sharing is caring. And now, let's continue.
I think the big thing I'd say is like, look, like, I'm not going to take the lamest JPEG NFT that's ever been made and try and convince a skeptic that is high art. Because I certainly don't think I'm going to convince a skeptic of that. Like, my goal is to convince a skeptic that it might. That there's a world in which this becomes absolutely massive. And if I can get there, I will settle for that. And so, I think that, like, look, take NFTs, right? I think there are a lot of things that we use in everyday life, which are basically NFTs. What are some examples? Well, tickets are basically NFTs. Song ownership rights, basically NFTs. I think you can look at, what else is basically an NFT? I mean, video game items, basically an NFT. You guys know how much money people spend annually on video game items?
In-game.
I wrote about that once. It's like 200 billion or something, isn't it?
Yeah, that's about the number. It's an absolutely spectacularly, like, colossally large amount. And so, I don't know. You think that's not going to become a big thing? Maybe it won't. I'm not going to tell you it definitely will. But, like, if you're going to tell me it definitely won't, I'm pretty happy to take the other side of that bet. Right? And like, you look at the financial infrastructure today where you try and send money to someone. Like, have you ever tried to send money to your friend and you don't happen to both use exactly the same weird fintech app? Like, you don't happen to like both use Zelle or whatever as like your main Zelle. I don't even know what category, right? Like, it's actually really hard to send like $20 to your brother, right? That's not trivial, and that's like the single easiest transfer to do in the world. Imagine trying to send money to your loved ones back home in Nigeria, and you're paying 20% and it takes a week, and it probably doesn't get stolen. Like that's not great. And then you look at a stablecoin transfer, and it's like, on some blockchains, like, 1 second and it costs a hundredth of a penny, and then it's there. Now, it doesn't solve the whole problem unless merchants accept it, right? If you never get that adoption, then you're not solving the hard problem of remittances with stablecoins. But if you do, if merchants start accepting stablecoins for bananas, right, then all of a sudden remittances are trivial. And so, again, maybe we never get there. I'd be sad, but it's totally plausible. But maybe we do. And that's the big thing that I would say is just like, I feel really convinced that that there's really, really high upside here.
Do you want to know one thing about crypto? I made over 3,000% in profit in a few weeks. Fact is, the traditional financial system, the traditional money system makes you poor, not rich. If you want to earn $500,000, $1 million, you have to wait until you're 50, 60, 70 in the traditional financial system, and you probably will still be broke. And you will be old. This is not a sexy combination, as you can imagine. But the question is, how can you start in crypto and make these profits? Where to invest? Where to start? My name is Gunnar and I'm from Germany, as you can hear, and things are a little bit different in Germany. More about that later on. Fact is, there are lots of different cryptocurrencies. It's a gigantic universe where beginners and professionals get easily lost. But there is light at the end of the tunnel. There are 7 key steps you need to follow to become successful in this market. You have to know them, and if you fail one of them, it's literally impossible to succeed in this market. Just an example, one of the key points is your exchange, and one of the biggest are, for example, Binance and Coinbase. These are trusted and well-established exchanges, but, and this is a big but, you won't find the super profitable coins on those exchanges. The unknown super profitable coins that get gigantic profits are not traded on those kind of exchanges. They are traded on much smaller insider platforms that are barely known. And I can tell you what those super secret exchanges are and why they are so profitable. And another super important thing are the right information sources. The point is, the internet is gigantic. There are hundreds and hundreds of YouTube channels, blogs, pages, and much, much more. And there are also market makers and influencers. For example, Elon Musk, he is not a crypto guy, but the moment he recommended Dogecoin, it went through the roof, to the moon, so to say. But why did he recommend it? Where did he hear it from? He didn't hear it from newspapers. And believe me, he is listening to someone. But you have to know who, and you have to react before he is reacting. This is really, really important. And these are only 2 of the 7 steps you have to follow in order to be successful in crypto. And if you want to know all of these steps in much more detail, and if you want to have a comprehensive checklist, here's what you should do. There is a link below this video. Click on this link and you will get the opportunity to subscribe to my channel. Click on the link and you will see a video where I explain the next steps. So see you soon. Click on the link now. I'll see you there.